Can you hear it loud? The world is ready. Stand up proud. Your story is power. Your passion's the spark. With Innovate AI and i3, you'll leave your mark.
In this session, we're going to give you some tips on how you can language your pitches. You want to hear that? We're going to do it using a tool that Doc and I are master trainers on, and that is values-based personas, values-based personalities. Okay? Give it up, give it up. You're going to help us. And what we're going to actually be talking about is, you see those blueprint, action, nurturing, and knowledge? Those are what we call personality intelligence. And it's about values-based personas. How many of you can relate to this? Choose one value that is important to you. Think about it. What's that one value that is important to you? What was that value? Love. Love, okay. That's a value. What else? Integrity. Integrity, thank you.
Dignity.
Dignity.
Connection.
Connection. Team. Who else? Empathy. This is a value set. Systems. Some of you are going, systems? What value is that? Systems is a value. Logic. Doc and I, we have what we call opposites attract and opposites attack. Whoa, what was that all about? With values personalities, words do have power. And words have different meanings when you use it. And today we're going to teach you why certain people get turned off by you because you showed up on time. Whoa. Yes. How many of you ever heard someone say, hello, you're late, and you just arrived on time? We got personalities like that. How many of you are like this? Oh, come on, man, give me a hug, and you're like, oh, please don't come near me. My husband's a knowledge personality. Oh, here, Doc, I'm going to let you control that. I'm bad with that.
Let me know if you want to.
My husband's a knowledge personality. But I can tell you this. I've been married for over 47 years. Is that good or good? 47 years, guys. And you know why? Because it's not personal, it's personality. That's what we're going to teach you today. It's not personal, it's personality. Okay? So what I want you to do is this. How many of you know yourself so much that you can tell everybody exactly who you are? Well, I'm going to say this. I want you to scan this code. You're going to see 4 sets of cards. I want you to take a look at the cards, and I want you to drag the cards in order of importance. The most important in the first position, second position, third, and fourth. And Doc and I, Dr. Eric, sorry, I call him Doc. That's my name for him. Dr. Eric and I will go through what this all means for you. And you're going to learn that opposites do attract, opposites do attack. And when you say something, it means something very different to someone else.
All right. So, and you actually heard Mamie share this. You know, let your audience determine your presentation, right? In the last session, if you were here talking about a signature talk. And years ago, in fact, a long time ago, 1987. I know, I am old. I actually did a fire walk with Tony Robbins here in Denver. And before people knew who he was, like it was in a parking lot of a hotel. But one of the things he talked about was this idea of rapport and pacing and leading and matching, and that's what got me hooked. If you heard, we were here earlier, you heard me share that I went on to study neuro-linguistic programming and became certified as a master practitioner, in fact, from Boulder NLP Comprehensive. And I studied with people like Robert Dilts and Laura Ewing and Charles Faulkner, and the list goes on. Michael Grinder, the brother of John Grinder, who founded NLP with Richard Bandler. And it was a list of who's who's. But bottom line is, all of that information, when you're pitching, you've got to understand who you're pitching to. What is important to them? In the same way, if you're here earlier, when you're sharing your marketing messaging, are you addressing pain points, right? So Tony Robbins said, let your prospect determine your presentation. Very similar to the idea of your audience determining your presentation. So powerful, because how this translates for me, having been trained as an educator and in classroom, presentation skills, like most professors, and I've worked with thousands of them, go into the classroom and they deliver the same presentation regardless who's in the classroom, right? Think about it. And so how many of you think people have different personalities? Show of hands. Would you all agree? Anyone disagree with that idea? No, of course we do. And so based on that, do you think people make decisions differently based on what's important to them, what's valuable to them, right? And so this is a system that is game-changing in helping you figure that out and shortcut it. It's brilliant, really, in terms of how quickly and well it works. And BANK is an acronym for Blueprint, Action, Nurturing, and Knowledge. And it's really a lens through which you see things. And I invite you to think about that, like how you see the world, because your perception creates what? Your reality. And if you've got a certain filter on, or if you're that fish swimming in water in your glass bowl, what are you actually seeing? And how distorted is the images that maybe your perception of and your self-talk and all those things color? But anyways, BANK is probably, for me, when I ran across this almost 8-9 years ago, I guess, I had left, and I wasn't recovered. I was a recovering academic when I left the C-suite at that time. Now I'm recovered. But at any rate, when I left, and having one of the universities I was at, we actually had a major in sales of all programs. There's only about 30 universities in the nation that do. Most have a major in marketing. By the way, that was my undergrad. And you take a personal selling and a salesmanship class or whatever. But we went super deep in sales in what we were offering our students because of that. And so someone shared this with me, this idea, and I thought about it, and I'm like, oh my God, like this is the missing link. We're talking about empathy. We're talking about human connection and how you do that. And again, if you were here earlier, you heard me say, like, biggest complaint I always had from employers on my advisory boards was, can't you teach the soft skills, right? But emotional intelligence is the holy grail of connection, of communication, of being understanding and empathetic and doing that. And so when we understand ourselves, and really Goleman, if you're familiar with his work on emotional intelligence, he popularized some of the work that was done earlier. But ultimately, it's understanding yourself and regulating your own emotions and understanding others and how best to interact to them. That's what emotional intelligence really is. So when you think about this idea, when you translate it to sales, and there's studies that have looked at this, when you look at the alignment, that idea of rapport like Tony Robbins talks about, this is rapport on steroids, because when you align by personalities, this is a study from the Chowley Group that said only 18% of buyers will buy from somebody when their personality type doesn't align, versus 82%, 18 versus 82% when they're aligned. Which side of the equation do you want to be on? Think about it. You want to be like less than 2 out of 10, or you want to be like 8 out of 10? You are aligning. You're getting that yes in that sale, if you will. And how many of you are in sales? Let me ask that question. What was that? Can you say that louder, Vicki?
I said we're all in sales.
That's right. Make no mistake. No matter what you do, whatever you do in life, you're always selling. And if it's me, when I think about like getting my daughters to clean up their room, or convincing my wife to go to a certain restaurant or travel somewhere, I mean, it's all sales, it's influence. And so how you do that, if you want a raise, if you want a promotion, if you want more money, you want more clients, it's all selling all the time. You're selling yourself, you're selling a concept or an idea. And when it comes to pitching, it is so critical. Some of you might have been in the room last year when we had a panel of VCs that I hosted talking about the pitch and what are they looking for in the pitch and understanding that. And so we've worked with companies, and Mamie in particular, in Silicon Valley, helping companies. And in fact, they've gone through this training and they require it for people before they even listen to a pitch that they understand this. because it's that important. And because of that, then, what, 90-some% of those get funding? It's a very high rate. So this is game-changing information. And I have not seen, and I've worked with people, and I was like, okay, I got to try this and understand like how it works. But the bottom line is this. If we have different personalities, do you think you approach people the way you would want to be approached based on what's important to you? Because that's the language you speak. It's like if I'm speaking English, think of these almost as different languages. If I'm an English speaker and I meet somebody who speaks French and I don't know any French and he doesn't know any English, how well do you think we're going to connect? It's that different. And I read, again, I'm dating myself, John Gray's book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, many years ago. Gender-based, but this is like that in many ways. Think about it. And so when you can understand, am I delivering the right message or the right script or the right pitch to someone based on the language they're speaking, based on what's important to them, their values basis, you'll get the connection. When you find that one person, if you're only speaking English, you find that English-speaking person, and if it was an even distribution curve, 1 out of 4 times, 25%, you're closing, right? Those other 3 out of 4 people, you're delivering the wrong message. Why should you care about that? Why do you think you should care that you're delivering the wrong message? What does that translate into in business? Lots of money, leads, conversions, like you're feeding your competition. And
But it
literally,
also could be that you're delivering the right message, but the wrong person's delivering it.
is there a wrong person to deliver a message?
Right? It's like but someone else could, based on their personality, could connect, right? So like you're
Well-
saying the same thing.
Yes, and we'll be talking about that more, but none of you, do you think you're the wrong person for whatever you're selling? No, you just haven't become multilingual to be able to sell. And so, in a prime example, I worked with someone when I was on the board of directors for one of the chambers here in Colorado, and she was the treasurer for the chamber and accounting firm and stuff, and I'm like, and I actually, as an educator, oversaw and developed like a master's of accounting program. And I've worked with a lot of accountants and people from what was the big 3, big 5, and most of them can't sell their way out of a paper bag, But ultimately, so I'm like, oh, this would be an interesting test case. So I worked with her and I said, where do you want to go with your business? And she shared with me, like her vision was, I want to retire. I want to do mission work. And so we laid out as a business strategist, like, what does that plan look like? And it was like a 10-year plan. And she took her conversion rate at the time was 25%. And she went in pretty skeptical, like, you can really help me with sales? Like, I don't know that I can do that. We went from 25% to almost 80% in her conversion rate. She had to stop her marketing because she couldn't hire other bookkeepers and accountants fast enough. And her 10-year plan became a 3-year plan where she exited and sold her business and bought that ranch in Idaho and is doing what she wants to do. And so that's what happens when you can deliver the right script. Just think about this, and I see you over there, is one of the things is if you think about turning off 3/4 of your clients, take your salary, your revenue from last year, and think about that times 3. That's what you're feeding your competition. That's what you're leaving on the table because you're not converting and you're not speaking that message to those individuals. 1 out of 4 times versus 3 out of 4. Yeah, question over here.
I get pitching to personality, but how do you pitch to personality if your market is nearly everyone?
We will talk about that. That's beautiful.
What was the question?
He gets pitching to personality, but how do you pitch when your market is nearly everyone? Anyone want to answer that? That's in here? What do you think? What do you need to be able to do if you want to pitch to everyone? Yeah.
Better find something that everybody's interested in.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll give you some examples of that later in this session. Perfect segue. Because you've got to be multilingual. You've got to be able to reach that. And the same thing as a speaker, beyond your message and your signature talk, you've got to be able to speak the language of the blueprint so that they know you've got proven systems and structures and you're going to guide them through step-by-step processes so they can get the results fast and win and have a lifestyle and the image and the fun, but also make a difference in the world. Because there's an impact to be had, and all the information that you're sharing with them and the data and the research behind it is evidence-backed to get the results that they want, right? So that's tying in the language that's going to appeal to all those different personality types. Yeah.
What about the skill of pivoting while you're in the midst of a pitch?
Absolutely.
If you have enough emotional intelligence to be able to see that it's not going the way that you would like it to go, then pivot your approach.
Yeah. Mamie, do you want to share? You've got an amazing story related to that. Would you mind sharing the experience of delivering the boardroom? Yeah.
All right, guys. You walk into a boardroom. I'm selling software. Who do you think's sitting in my audience?
Steve Jobs.
Geek Jobs. Okay.
Chief technology officer.
Yeah.
Chief technology officers.
COOs.
Okay? They want data. Guess what? I walked into a boardroom, 15 stakeholders, and these are the questions they asked me. How is your transition going to impact my employees? Whoa. What are you going to do to make sure that I can retain my employees? Is that questions that you would think a tech or engineer would be asking? Guess what? I was in the wrong place with the wrong presentation. So you talk about pivot, okay? So this is what we did. We closed down the computer and we said, you know what? Let's talk about how this is going to impact your employees. Let's talk about that step-by-step process that we can provide to you. Let's talk about the connections and the relationships that we want to build, because this is not a one-day job. It's going to take us 8 months to get to where you want to be, because we were overhauling the whole system. Now, what I didn't tell you is this. We were not the company of choice. We had 1,015 bugs in the system. We were trying to sell them. But they weren't worried about the system because they knew our company could handle that. They were worried about how we were going to actually take care of their business and their employees. So what did we do? We actually implemented this. And my salespeople were like, what the hell are you doing, Mamie Jean? Because I whipped out these cards that you just did online. I don't have pockets. We whipped out these cards and I gave it to all 15 people in the room. And this is what I told them. Take a look at the cards. We have values printed on each of the cards. And what I want you to do is put your cards in order of importance. The most important on the top and the least important on the bottom. And when those 15 people gave me back their cards, it looked like this rainbow. I'm going to tell you what this meant. Majority of the stakeholders were what we call nurturing personalities. Money is not their currency. People is.
Which is why it was
That's why. And I was about to give them a pitch that had all the bells and whistles and all the knowledge. I didn't have those people in my room. So you talk about pivot. We had to show them that, yes, we had 1,015 bugs, but we were with them every step of the way. And that we promised that when we embarked on this journey, that we would make sure that every department was taken care of. Is that the talk of an engineer right now? Not good, bad, or otherwise, guys. But what we were able to see is the stakeholders were this. My pitch was going to be this: knowledge and blueprint. And we're going to go through that in a moment. But I can tell you this. By the time we were done, we walked away with a $23 million deal in 7 countries. And I was about to lay off 300 people who reported to me. And I did not have to do that. Why? Because what we did was we reutilized. I had only just learned this, guys. And I was able to re-implement this, and I was able to save jobs. 7 of my employees got to choose the country they wanted to live in. And this $23 million contract turned into additional funding because based on what their needs were, we were able to fulfill it. How many of you would love to learn that? Because that's languaging. Okay? Go ahead, Doc.
So as Mamie shared, you know, the values, and it's important to understand when you sort the cards, there's something about the order you put in them. What's most important to least important, right? And so based on what you did, and when you look at the report that you just got, you'll see your first two values are really what drives your decision making, your buying behavior or your buy-in behavior. Hence, some of you might notice like those books over there, Why They Buy. Why do people buy? It's values, right? It's what's important to them. And so those first two are what influence you, what drives your decision making. The third position, though, is typically how you respond under stress. Think about that. Like how you show up. Anyone ever encounter somebody that you think you know really well, but it's like, I don't know, dating myself. If you remember the movie Sybil, like their head spins around and like, what the hell? Like, who are you? Like, what's going on? Like, and if you don't recognize that they're in stress, that's a huge issue. It can be. And I actually studied stress years ago among emergency medical physicians. In fact, this is a training I've done at one of the Advent Health hospitals here in Colorado with all the emergency department and people, because when people are coming in, they're stressed, and the people that are working in emergency departments are stressed. So it doesn't matter what you're doing, and training it in schools and chiropractic offices and insurance and financial planners, everybody, this should be mandatory for people to understand, because this is, I really think, the holy grail of communication, to understand how you connect with people, have that human connection. And I shared with you that, and this is actually the system when I talked about, for some of you that were here earlier, building one of the first tools, at least according to Forbes, that was AI with empathy and the future of sales. This was based on this methodology. They said, we can take this, we can create an AI system that can actually analyze words and linguistics and figure that out and decode it, and also then actually write in all those different languages and make sure it's personalized to that individual and also sequenced in that order. And then last code is really just what's least important to you. So super powerful. It's like this, you know, different than the cards that maybe we're sharing, but if you go to the ATM with a credit card, your bank card, and you put in that 4-digit code and you get it wrong, what happens?
You don't get your money.
You don't get your money, right? Anyone ever have that happen in a relationship or in an interaction where it's a prospect where you're like, this is going well, and then all of a sudden something happens. And it's like, well, what just happened? It just dissolves in front of you. Like, whoops, I guess that's not going well. But your ability to adapt and pivot and figure out and recognize that, being emotionally intelligent enough to do it. But understanding that is key, because if you get the wrong sequences. So we do training to help people do things like speed coding, where you're not using cards. We help you understand by your powers of observation and listening how to very quickly figure out who is that person. What are they? I can tell you right now who the nurturers are in this room. Primary code. I can tell you who the blueprints are. But it's picking up on those cues, the actions, the knowledges as well. Everything from the way you walk, to what you wear, to just your mannerisms. There are clues everywhere, but we've never been trained on it. And I've had people say, are you like an FBI like profiler, or what's the deal? Like, it's crazy, but it's a skill that can be learned. That's what's so powerful about it. And really, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care, is something Roosevelt said. And I love this slide because, and I've trained this obviously with a lot of faculty and professors and K-12 teachers, because again, people talk about people's learning styles, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, or that student that's got ADD or ADHD. No, they're an action personality, and you'll understand more about that in a minute, but why that's important. But this is, again, most people have one presentation. You have one pitch. Like, what's your 30-second elevator? Well, wait a minute. If there's different people, I either need to have 4 different elevator pitches, or I need to have one pitch that makes sure I'm speaking to each of these different value sets, which is something that we train people on in power scripting, which is a more advanced course. So ultimately, I want to walk you through really quick, and this is fun. And I invite you as I do this to think about people you know in your life. And it may be you. How many of you had Blueprint, if you sorted those cards, had that as your first card? Show of hands. Not too many, a few actually. That's pretty impressive for this group. A lot of times you don't find that in a conference of entrepreneurs, and I'll explain more about that in a minute. We talked about this being a lens, so I invite you to put on the lens of a blueprint and think about who it is you know that's a blueprint in your world. It could be in your personal life, your relationships, it can be in the workplace, but a blueprint personality type, think about a blueprint. Who uses blueprints? Engineers, architects, yeah, you've got a plan. So a blueprint, I want you to think about a box, and I'm going to use that analogy as we go through each of these. A blueprint person lives inside of a box. They want that structure. I shared this idea of systems, save yourself time, energy, money, and stress in an earlier session. Blueprints love systems. Why? Because it helps them know that there's something stable, there's a structure, there's the box that they can rely on, and they can plan for it. They hate spontaneity. Why? They don't want surprises. They want predictability. They feel a sense of duty and obligation and responsibility to things that are going on. And they also value and appreciate credentials. That is a sign of respect. It's a sign of authority as well. They value that. And you can, it's so fun driving down the street. You can tell the blueprints who they are. They're actually going the speed limit, or in many cases, 5 miles under the speed limit, right? And you can tell the actions. I saw a couple of them this morning. I was like bumper to bumper, but there's like a guy on a motorcycle in particular. I'm like, I was just crazy. Like weaving in and out, okay, I guess that's an action personality. But you can figure that out. That car ahead of you, if you think about it, and even the car person's driving, you can understand. The likelihood as that light turns yellow of them stopping or gunning it. Like what is going to happen? It's a life skill. It can save your life, actually. But ultimately, they love titles and tradition. And for a blueprint, opposite of an entrepreneur, the thing they want to do in life is avoid risk in most cases, right? And so if they are doing their own thing, oftentimes in business, like it would be a franchise. They want a business in a box, right? They want the proven processes and systems that they can utilize and grow on. They don't want to take those risks. So for a blueprint then, what that translates into when we're talking about speaking and actually how you connect in your pitch, you've got to make sure that for the blueprint, they're going to want the details. And they are the people that dot the I and cross the T, right? You know, and so with that, even though this is relevant, and this is perfect, Mamie, actually, they're getting double value because you were just talking about signature talks. But, you know, whether you're speaking or pitching, it's the same thing. You want to make sure that, again, you're not surprising them. So the idea, if you're speaking, you wouldn't want to offer them a last-minute slot. They're like, oh, I didn't plan for that. I had an individual earlier who, some of you were here for that session. I put him on the spot because he walked in and I worked with him building AI agents. And I said, oh my God, you're here. Like, let's talk about go high level. And he was a little like, oh, I don't think, you know, a little higher blueprint, right? But I got him out of his mindset and stuff. It was great if you were here. But again, it's, you know, timing is everything. And you've got to make sure that with a blueprint in the pitch, that if you're pitching them, because they have such a sense of tradition and loyalty, that you're helping them understand that it's riskier for them to stay the current course, or maybe with supplier or vendor they've been using for 10 or 20 years, whatever that looks like. I'm actually doing some coaching work with a financial planner, and he's got, you know, clients that feel like, oh, well, I inherited this, and my mom was working with this person for the last 20 years, and I can't change. And it's like, well, how do you overcome that? Is you help them understand what they're leaving on the table, what the consequences of not moving, and that's riskier for their money or what they inherited as an example, or even what they've earned, than working with him, for an example. So think about that and how you actually reach a blueprint, because it'll make a big difference in that. And when you think about this, again, because they value credentials, you want to speak to that. You want to make sure, especially if you're in front of a bunch of venture capitalists or even angel investors in your pitch, you want to make sure that they understand your background, your experience, and your expertise, and you want to have that plan, and you want to be able to stick to it, again, because, you know, if you are that engineer or that builder that's working with the architectural plan, you have change of control processes, and it's costly if you start deviating from the plan. And you want to be polite and professional. Blueprints, again, think of like, I mean, we did custom corporate training when I was at a university. We provided a lot of training for IBM up in Boulder for their executives. But it was like Big Blue, IBM, if you remember those days. It's like just a little stodgy, uptight, professional sort of feel. But you want to make sure with everything that it's organized, it's systematic, it's predictable. And for a blueprint, never, ever be late. Because on time for a blueprint is 15 minutes early. And I use the analogy, I ran track, and if I wasn't in those blocks when that gun went off, I'm disqualified. And it's the same exact thing with a blueprint. You're going to lose the connection, the relationship, or the deal if you disrespect their time, because that's how they, through these lenses, see it. So you got to have a system for success in what you're doing. So that's some of the blueprint personality. So I'll turn it over to talk about the action personality.
Yeah, let's talk about the actions, everybody. Why? Because the actions, they are the movers and the shakers and the millionaire makers in their own minds. They are the ones who pride themselves on being spontaneous. Okay? When it comes to the box, actions go, what the hell is a box? Okay? They are the ones that show up late to parties. Why? Because their value sets, and let me go through this one. Their value sets are, they want to know that they can have freedom, flexibility, spontaneity, and action. Is that something a blueprint is looking for? No. Very different. Are you starting to see why a pitch to a blueprint is going to look very different than a pitch to an action? So an action personality, they want opportunity. They don't want the details that Doc wants. I just want the bottom line. Tell me the sizzle. Tell me the sizzle. Why? Because I like excitement. I love stimulation and competition. Image from head to toe, it's all for show. Sounds bad, but guess what? It's not. It's not personal, it's just their personality. Action personalities, you want them across the table from you. Why? Because they buy fast. They buy fast. Oh, sounds good, smells good, I want it. Well, let me go through the details of the contract. Hell, I don't want to know that. I just want to sign on the dotted line. That's a difference, guys. That's why it's so important to understand what languaging you're using when you're working with the different personalities. I can't see with red glasses on, so I'm going to take off my glasses. All right? So some of the tips that we want you to keep in mind is this. As a speaker, bring the energy, bring the party. Okay? And understand that when you're dealing with the action personalities, they're the ones that will show up last minute. Right? If I want to go on a date, he's my work husband, okay, guys? If I want to go on a date with a blueprint, I got to schedule it 2 weeks ahead of time. Whereas an action can show up anytime. All right? You see the difference? So when you have business appointments, that's what you want to be very aware of. You know, assign someone to keep A's on track. Why? Because they're squirrels. Yeah? Oh, that looked good. Oh, I like that. Oh, that smelled good. Oh, nope, I don't think I want that now. Action personalities will buy fast, and what else do? Run
away.
They run away and they say, can I have my money back? Why? Because they make decisions based on their gut. Blueprints make their decisions based on detail. When you work with an action personality, go in expecting the sale. Okay? Oh, knowledge. Who's my knowledge? Do you notice I have a typo there? And if I did not acknowledge that, you would be still going, maybe there's a typo on your PowerPoint. Okay? And so with actions, they don't care. My brain already said there's an N under on action, I'll move on. Okay? Actions like to look their best. This is the one thing that I was totally blown away by. I went home to Honolulu to take care of some stuff. I volunteered at the school. And the teachers were wearing shorts that were shorter than their shirts. I'm like, that's not appropriate, because I thought they were students. And I have to tell you, I have a master's degree in adult education. So to see that, I was like, what are you doing? So with action personalities, they like to look their best. And what I'm finding is, today's world, people show up the way they want to show up. And I'm going to say this. When you're doing a pitch, when you're doing a signature talk, people are already looking at you and saying, Mimi doesn't have any nails. What's with that? She's dressed nice, no nails. Well, I told the last class I have no nails because I love whitewater rafting. How many women can understand that? You can't have nails when you whitewater raft. All right? So those are some of the things you keep in mind when you're dealing with different personalities. Keep the energy high, be interactive. With an action personality, they love visual stimulation, right? That's why you see them go, oh, beautiful red card. Ooh, that's a nice card too. Oh, I want that. So you need to make sure when you're working with an action personality that you keep all your options open. Okay? Sell the opportunity up front because they will buy quick. They don't have to have the details. They won't read the contract. Who reads the contract? Blueprint. Okay? When you deal with an action personality, give them tips on how you can get what they want faster. That's why we say sell the sizzle. Now, this is not manipulation, it's personality. So I want you to write this down. It's not personal, it's personality. And in this case, it's not personal, it's values-based. Because this is what this methodology is all about. Understanding what's important to that other person. Okay? They love when you can actually give them exclusives. You know, I was working with someone who came to one of our events. They were selling an apartment. And when they were selling the apartment, they said, oh, maybe it's been on the market for 2 years. I said, talk to me about this apartment. Well, it's a view of Catalina Island. It's beautiful walking at sunrise and at sunset. I said, let me see your listing. Oh, the apartment is 1,200 square feet. There's a view, and it didn't talk about the view of Catalina. That was an action apartment. So guess what we did? We switched off the words. This apartment gives you the freedom to enjoy sunsets and sunrises. You can walk out on the deck and just smell the ocean. You see the difference? You know what happened? I had to tell them to turn their phone off because guess what? They made the change and they were selling the house during our class because she made the change. Good or good? Languaging helps. This is the founder of our organization. But we're going to go. Whoops. So we're going to show you a story about a woman who actually, I think that's in the beginning, who actually took bank. She was in action. And what we found out was bank helped her to understand her son because her son was a blueprint.
Has been priceless in my life. So I was struggling with building a business. I saw Sherry speak on stage. In fact, it was that where she's covered in money. And that was that day, and it was amazing. And I said, I need this in my life. And I ended up going through the coaching program as a client, and I had no idea what I had signed up for. I thought it was just going to help me increase my sales, which is what I was shooting for, and it certainly did that. So much so that I was able to grow a startup company to over 2.2 million, and fantastic, right? But you're like, wait more. I had a relationship that I struggled with my oldest child for 18 years. And it was horrible and heartbreaking as a parent to not be able to connect. I didn't know what was wrong and I couldn't fix it. And they had come home from college right before I started this program, and they didn't want to be around me. The first day in, I knew exactly what was wrong. We were just different. And this program gave me the ability to have the most amazing relationship with my child. And if it weren't for this program, we wouldn't have. So I wish I would have known this. Every parent, every person, every human should understand and learn FANG. It makes you a better parent, a better spouse, a better friend, a better business owner, and a better human being. And this certification and what Sherry is on a mission to do and what all of us as code breakers on our mission to do is priceless. So thank you. And congratulations.
You know, we use this in pitching. We use it in signature talks. We use it in raising our children. And the next personality I want to talk about, because this really is me, the action that I do up here is because action is my second code. But I know how to bring it on. Everybody go like this. Aw, make a heart and go, aw, yeah. Nurturing personalities, we run our business differently. We use a different currency. And guess what our currency is? It's not money.
Love.
Relationships. It's about building relationships. So when you want to pitch, you want to do a signature talk, you want to do that big sale, you need to make that connection. And connections are made for each personality very differently. For us, it's important to understand that nurturing personalities love relationships and authenticity. We have the capability to give and give and give to the point we got nothing else to give. That's what my mom was all about in Hawaii. We love personal growth. Why? Because that will make this world a better place. Yeah. Miscongeniality. All I want is peace. Yes, that's a nurturing personality. So if you want to do business with a nurturing personality, take the time to actually understand who they are. Because no money that you can offer them will make them do what they don't want to do. That's what I need you to understand. With a nurturing personality, it's about significance. It's about teamwork. It's about involvement. It's about building that community and giving to charity. It's about ethics. It's about morality and harmony and contribution. For a nurturing personality, you want them in your arena. Why? Because they will refer you to everybody. And then on the opposite side, if you do something bad to a nurturing, guess what happens? Oh, this is my motto as a nurturing. Do not mistake my sweetness for a weakness, because I will take you down and smile. Yes? For a nurturing personality, it really is about those relationships. And for nurturing personalities, I want you to understand this. Nurturing personalities are the people who bring people together. And if you notice, all three personalities have their own value sets. Not one is right, wrong, or otherwise. When we bring them together, and we'll show you how that looks like, you have an amazing team that you can build. When you understand each of the personalities, you have the tool sets to shift and then connect. And then go from that shift and connection to, let's do business together. Okay? With nurturing personalities, the one thing I want you to understand is this. We hug, and we hug. I'm married to a knowledge personality that you're going to learn about in just a moment. My knowledge husband, we don't hold hands in public. Right? Oh, I said I love you when we got married. If anything changes, I'll let you know. Right? But guess what? It wasn't personal, guys. And I don't think I could have been married to him for 47 years. Because that's how long I've been married. It's not personal, it's personality. And for a nurturing personality, It's all about the people. It's all about the people. Go ahead, Dot. So we share from the heart. We love to interact, and we always ask, how can I participate? Don't leave me behind. Yeah? What can I do to serve? Those are some of the words that will identify nurturings in your life. Okay? So how do you align with the nurturing personas? Well, actions, blueprints, and knowledge. Yes, we tell stories. So when you have appointments with nurturing, I want you to understand this. Blueprints, there is no time when you talk to a nurturing. You want to do business with them, let them tell their stories. Be authentic. And for some of you who are blueprint knowledge, like my husband, you may not want to hug me. Suck it up. Because for a nurturing personality, it is about the contact. So just letting you know that. Okay? Get vulnerable with them. One thing my husband tells me, when you're done crying, you can come talk to me when it's logical. But I can tell you what he did for me. My knowledge husband knew how much it meant for me to hear the words, I love you. So this is what he did, in true knowledge fashion. He took his telephone and put 2 appointments in his phone. One appointment said, tell Mamie I love her. The second appointment said, give Mamie a kiss on the cheek. Well, guess what? I didn't know that. I said, oh my God, my husband has changed. He loves me. He loves me. One day we were at home, phone is ringing, and I'm like, Landon, phone's ringing. Yeah, I'll get it. Phone goes off again. I'm like, Landon, your phone. So what does an intuitive wife do? Well, pick up the phone. Oh, put the phone back down. Why? Because that message said, tell Mamie I love you. Simple things like that. So what did he do? He came in, washed his hands, says he was doing something outside with the car. Came over to me. He said, I love you. I said, oh, I love you too. That is what understanding the values of a person sitting across the table is all about. We say opposites attract and opposites will attack. And I want you to understand with a nurturing personality, involve us. Share your mission. Tell us what your impact is so that we can help support you. Be positive and upbeat. Take time to build relationships and community. Can you start to see the differences with some of these personalities and how you may have to change, not you, just shift the languaging that you're working with? Is that making sense? When you took that assessment, we released a report to you telling you about your favorite topic, you. I'm going to recommend that you read it so you understand who you are and why you react so much. And why, when you walk into a room and you're like, oh my God, please don't come next to me because I don't like you, I don't even know you. Or, oh my God, do I know you? Ever been in those situations? So with the personalities, understand that personalities is not about you and it's not about them. It's about what's important to the other person sitting, standing, or kneeling in front of you.
So with that, we'll move into the knowledge personality. And unlike the blueprint personality that's in the box, or the action that's like blasting out of the box, and I was thinking about the nurturing, and I don't know, like the box, they would give you their box, I think, or they would recycle the box or something because they care about the society and everything. But the knowledge personality, think about it, right? They invented the box, or they engineered the box, or they maybe think outside of the box too. But in a powerful way, for a knowledge personality, it's all about information. That's the currency, right? It's not money like the action or the relationship like the nurturing. It's probably information. So learning and intelligence, logic, and not just one intelligence. You think about Howard Gardner and the theory of the multiple intelligences and everything. It's about self-mastery. It's about continuous improvement and doing things better. it's also about making sure that when you're looking at the world with the self-mastery, that it filters into technology. How many of you like technology? Why do you like technology? Why is technology a good thing? Why do you think?
Tools and machines.
Tools and machines. And if you have tools and machines, yeah, it empowers you. It makes your life better. Maybe the world better place. Through technology, we can improve and enhance things. Through research and development. So they love those types of things. Science and universal truths. If you can actually boil something down to an equation, like E equals mc squared, or the theory of gravity, or things like that you can prove, that's really powerful. And they value expertise, similar to a blueprint, you know, the credentials and authority, but they value competence and accuracy, the precision of making sure there's not a typo or the numbers are exactly right. But they also want to make sure that they understand the big picture, and knowledge personalities can see the big picture and also connect the dots and sometimes make sense out of what seems to be chaos to other people. But they recognize that. And so for a knowledge personality, it's really about understanding that they're wired differently. And if you noticed a common theme between the blueprint and knowledge, anybody notice that in terms of sort of something versus the action and nurturing? And Mamie alluded to it, I think, indirectly with this, like the heart thing, and then also what her husband's comment was. Knowledge and blueprints, they live in their head. It's like Dr. Spock, like emotion doesn't compute. Like, stop crying and I'll listen to you, right? Maybe I'll listen to you. But the action and nurtures, they're in their heart or their gut. Like, it's very different in terms of how they process and make sense of the world. So for a knowledge personality type, then, what that means is you've got to be able to, you know, because information is important and facts and figures, they've got to be confident in the information. I shared that comment I made earlier, like, in God I trust, everyone else bring me data. That's a knowledge personality type, right? It's factual. And they want to know that you've got the expertise and expect that they're going to have a lot of questions, right? And you've got to be prepared to answer them. At the same time, one of the mistakes I see people make, guess what it is? They BS. And a knowledge personality, they're going to recognize it right away. They'll sniff it out. So don't make stuff up. If anything, make sure you can connect them with an expert, a specialist, a technical support, or whatever they're asking about, or provide them with the information or the white paper or the research to back it up so they can do it. And they will sell themselves, because once they're convinced and they are making an informed decision after doing their due diligence, they're all in. But they've got to make sense of it. It's got to make sense. And, you know, they don't want to make a mistake. It's like that perfectionist tendency to some degree. So you've got to show the evidence. And again, this is why it's so important. Some of you were at some of the AI sessions. We were talking about hallucinations and citations, and some tools like Perplexity are better at that than others. But you've got to make sure that you're able to back up what you're saying with evidence, because they will question it. And Einstein actually once said, question everything. That is a knowledge personality type.
Question authority.
Yeah, absolutely, you know, and it's logical. So, and actually, I mean, in terms of questioning authority, besides the knowledge, who else do you think questions authority? Action, absolutely. And let's go back to this idea. So if an action personality were to complete this sentence, rules are meant to be what? Broken. If a blueprint, rules are meant to be what? Okay, what do you think? Yeah, rules are meant to be loved. There you go for the nurture. I love it. What about for knowledge?
Proven.
Proven, tested? Yeah. I mean, it's very different in terms of what drives them.
Rules are made to be compassionate, not.
Yes, there you go. I love it.
Maybe
But
not.
there's love and compassion.
I mean, but like rules aren't made to be loved. Like, I'm not gonna love this rule, but like rules
Yeah.
need to be
Yep.
empathetic and compassionate.
Sure. Yep. Exactly.
It's a great session.
So, well, thank you. And so, Mamie, I'll turn it back over to you. But one of the things I want to share with you is just that, you know, you have all these different lenses, right? And part of what we do when we're training individuals is help them really understand that rather than looking through just a single lens, that they could see the world differently in a way that imagine what it would be like to be sort of out of this matrix and recognize what is really happening with each person and adapt quickly and easily and effortlessly to be able to speak the language of the other person, right? So yeah, question.
That kind of leads into this question I have, and I think I've answered it for myself, but I want to know what your answer is.
Sure.
Do you think that these personality types or measurements or groupings are dynamic or static?
They're definitely dynamic, yeah. I mean, because why? What are they based on?
Situations,
Well,
circumstances.
circumstance, but they're based on your values. So you can look at, how many of you have done a personality assessment like a Myers-Briggs or DISC or all these other tools that are out there, right? What are a lot of those based on? Are they based on values? No, they're not. They're based on other characteristics, even the big five, openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, neuroticism. Those aren't values sets. And that's even the most stable one. The other ones, there's no predictive validity to them in HR and other areas. And so when you look at this idea, your values will change. I can tell you that. And some of you were here earlier when I shared my dad being killed in a car accident 14 years ago. Do you think that gave me a different perspective on time and life? And someone that's grinding, looking forward to retirement and never experiencing like the things he was looking forward to. Divorce, loss of a child maybe, or all sorts of other things. Those are things that will change your values and what's important to you. And your identity is the one thing that's most stable. Like, what do you stand for, right? That's why it's so powerful. But it will change. But it is relatively stable over time. But you will have those life circumstances and obviously stress as well. Like, what happens when you get stressed and how do you shift in that code? But again, it's that emotional intelligence. It's the awareness around being able to recognize that. And actually, we've got a session tomorrow that we'll be talking about mindset and resilience a little bit and some of those hacks, neuroscience-based. But it feeds into your personality. And I think that the key is understanding who you are and also unpacking that. Because who you are is shaped by, is it nature, nurture, right? And environmental influences, all the expectations. And they say, by the age of 7, a lot of those things are set in stone based on it. And there's evidence now with DNA and other things of actually what's happening at a biological level in terms of that. But it doesn't mean you can't change that and rewire some of those things. And it may be understanding really who you were born to be and living into that. I know that maybe sounds a little woo-woo or deep, but that's the reality because people don't own that, and society and the expectations can get in the way of you living a life of authenticity, true to your values, and being willing to stand up for your values. What do you stand for? So with that, yeah.
How do you balance authenticity in pitching to these different personalities?
Well, again, it's understanding who they are and what's important to them, but also coming from a place. And here's one of the things, and I'll ask people, and I appreciate it. I know we've gone a little over, so if you need to leave, feel free. But one of the things I often find when I'm doing coaching with salespeople, and I worked with one of my clients, she was one of the top performers selling jets. Like, these are not inexpensive objects, but we doubled her sales. And people were like, how do you? She's already one of the top people. How do you double it? But even for her, it was mindset and her approach with different people. Because you're talking about, this is an indirect way of thinking about it. When you're reaching out, you've got to believe with your heart and soul that you've got the best product, you've got the best service, you've got something that if you don't share with them, you're doing them a disservice. And if they say no, that's their loss. Like, you know what? But I know a lot of people that aren't aligned fully and they're not congruent in that message. But if you're congruent and you're talking to a blueprint, an action, a nurture, or knowledge, it doesn't matter what their value set is. You're coming from a place of authenticity, and all the different personalities will recognize it. Okay. Yeah.
How do you determine who you're talking to? Do you stalk them on LinkedIn? Do you, like, what, how do you
Well,
determine that?
well, it's funny you mentioned that because with the AI tool we developed, we can actually push a button and tell somebody's LinkedIn profile what their personality is, and very accurately for that matter. So you can then know how best to reach out. But no, we don't. I'm not a stalker. There are analytics and tools, but again, that's why we do things like speed coding and the training that we offer to individuals and organizations, so they can learn how to do that with or without the cards or AI tools and other observational things. So maybe anything else as we wrap up? I don't know what else is
I think
in that.
somebody had a question in the back.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, it would be interesting, because again, blueprint, action, listening, knowledge, they're, the core, the first layer, but there's like KNs and KAs and KBs and, ANs and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
If a live voice AI in a conversation on a phone could use these cues, identify.
It can.
Instantaneously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, that's the fun stuff, right?
Absolutely.
Inbound, outbound AI.
Yep. Done tremendous work. I mean, call centers, amazing. And anybody that does phone work as well, to be able to know what to listen for. And you think about it, it's not just for personality types. I gave that analogy of the ATM. You're entering 4 digits. So who was knowledge first? Who understands what 4 factorial is? Do you remember that? There's 24 different combinations to these codes. So you've got a 4.166666666 for the knowledge, chance of getting it right. But you know what? You can increase that dramatically when you learn how to recognize and understand each of the different types and what makes people tick, so that you're not feeding your competition 3/4 of your business, and you're not spending all your money wasting that same 75% of your advertising spend that you're just losing, where you can actually monetize it in a powerful way so that your message is going to resonate with the audience. And going back to one of the questions someone posed earlier, well, how do you do it? If it's not clear already, regardless, if you're trying to reach everybody, that's your market, then you need to make sure you're incorporating all of the value set when you are speaking from a stage, when you're delivering a pitch, on your website, in your approach. Like, everything that you do has got to speak to all of the personality types. Otherwise, you're going to lose your competition. And we can actually analyze with tools your information, your brochures, your pamphlets, your website, and tell you, like, you are with, like, this is the percentage that you're speaking to this code versus this code versus this code versus this code. And sometimes I'll look at a website and there's no wonder. It's like, you know what? This website is only going to reach action personalities. Just like the same thing, Mamie's example of that real estate property. And so we've got, like, for realtors, we've got white papers where we've researched and seen like 300% improvements when you actually align the language and the messaging with the person's personality code, and in all sorts of different industries where we've looked at that. So, great question.
Great question. With this one here, the ease of learning it is because it's values-based. So the values-based could be seen not only in the languaging, but also in the writings. Okay? This is the solution. All of you had the opportunity to actually crack your code. Okay? You did this online. If you complete that, you'll get a report that talks about your favorite subject, you. And it'll tell you what your likes and your dislikes are, why you do certain things. So I'm going to encourage you. That's your first step. Understand who you are so that you can shift into what your client needs.
Where
Makes
is
sense.
this? I haven't heard of this. Where do you take it? Where is that?
You start with the code crack, but we've
You
been
were out of the room at the time. We can put it back up.
yeah,
afterwards.
and we've been in existence for over 20 years.
Right.
So start with the report, and if you want to get a hold of us, you have our contact information if you've actually connected with us on Ignite your AI Challenge. All right. Thank you so much for your time. Did you get value out of this? Yeah.